Good evening, everybody. It's 9:30 or soon after 9:30. We're going to talk about the threat for severe weather tomorrow, primarily concerned with large hail. And the larger the hail, the higher the damaging wind threat, too. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about how hail even forms and why we're talking about potential for supercells without tornadoes. So let's get right into it. As far as things go out there right now, pretty quiet, and we expect quiet weather out there. I'm not sure if they got the satellite launched or not tonight. I haven't looked at that. They did not. Okay, probably they scrubbed the launch. Okay, good. I won't have to worry about having the time lapse. I had the cameras facing to the east to see if we could catch it, but Liz is probably disappointed. She's been looking forward to that. So maybe they'll get that tomorrow. Here are the current temperatures. Hey, how about 58 in Muscle Shoals, but 46 that is up in Pulaski. So it's a cool night, but better than last night. We don't have to worry about the frost. Here's our timeline. I'm going to stick with this 2 o'clock to 8 o'clock, mainly areas from the northwest part of the Huntsville metro area down to Moulton and over to the Shoals. And the model guidance continues to kind of fluctuate where this large hail is going to be, but I do have higher confidence someone's probably going to get quarter to golf ball size hail tomorrow. Just don't know who. The storms, they'll develop wherever they want to. The model guidance just tries to show us where they are going to be firing up. Watching from Rainsville, thanks Joyce. Let's see, turn on light mode. I'm not getting any over here. Oh, did you pull that up? Again, I'm trying to get some of yours to show up here. Again, large hail and damaging winds, the isolated damaging wind threat, and we'll go into that here in a second. 3 o'clock to 10 o'clock, and again, it's not going to be widespread throughout that entire time. It's going to be periods of showers and thunderstorms. So here's our primary threats. I think we're going to have a lot of 40 to 50 mile per hour gusts with the hail. So we could see kind of like what we saw about a month ago where we had, especially in Russellville, all that hail and it accumulated on the highways. We could see a similar situation where we get a lot of pea to dime size hail. But if we don't get a lot of pea to dime size hail, that means we're probably looking at the higher end, fewer hailstones, but larger hailstones. We'll get to that in a second. High chance for heavy rain. Lightning is elevated, and the large hail threat's really the highest threat we have here as we go on into the event. Here's a look hour by hour, and I'm going to go through this. This is the Barron model here. This is a 3 kilometer model, and it's showing a little bit of development here between noon and 2 o'clock, mainly east of I-65. But keep in mind that could pop up just about anywhere, so we will be watching that. And as that moves through, again, those storms could be on the strong side. The model guidance is kind of trending a little bit later in the evening with some of this activity. See down there towards Smith Lake around 4 o'clock. So as far as the kids getting out of school, things like that, I don't think they're going to be on the bus with large hail unless it's probably after 3:30, 4 o'clock. And I realize some of those, but those will be fairly isolated events. Here's 7 o'clock. Here's the highest impact, I think, if we don't get the afternoon activity to fire up. We're seeing a lot of rain here, 7 o'clock, big thunderstorms, large hail, isolated damaging winds. And then as we go past 9 o'clock, this really starts to shift to the east of I-59, over there in DeKalb County, down to Gadsden, and over there towards Weiss Lake. And then it's just rain late tomorrow night. So some much needed rain. It's going to be a while before we see significant rainfall again. And maybe even next week we don't see significant rain. We've got a cold front coming in next Monday night, but that right now doesn't look to be advertising a lot of rain with it. So Friday morning, we're on the cooler side of this, and we've got the clouds coming in, and the temperatures above, about 18,000 feet in the air, they're going to be about 10 degrees below zero, so really, really cold, and that creates the instability shower. So you're probably going to be able to look out and see the heavy rain shafts off in the distance, maybe even see some what we call grapple. It's a real soft hail. It's like Dippin' Dots is what that's a lot like. Moulton checking in, Monrovia checking in, and Spruce Pine also checking in tonight. Thanks for tuning in. Again, sometimes this chat feature we have, it's hit and miss. It was hit last night, and it's a miss tonight. But what I'm saying here on Friday is you get these instability showers, the convective showers, and you can get some wind gusts with those around 35 miles an hour. So we'll watch out for that. Let's talk about hail potential here. Now, this is the model. It's an algorithm. It goes in and specifically tries to pinpoint where the hail is going to be. You can see some spots showing up here around 3 o'clock, but a majority of this begins to come in during the late afternoon, early evening hours. You can kind of see that. This is depicting hail. But I will tell you, if you've been following this, I made a few posts on Facebook about this. Some of this was farther east in the metro area to begin with. So this is all going to depend on where the bigger thunderstorms fire up, of course. And let's see, just checking in. Trinity, everybody's checking in tonight. So, and I don't know when it's going to hail at your house. I cannot answer that question. But I can tell you how hail forms. Once you get here in a strong to severe thunderstorm, and again, we may have supercell storms. We may have these rotating storms, but they're going to rotate in the mid-levels, in the upper levels of the thunderstorm. That's what's going to keep it going. It's kind of like a gas engine. You know, you got the intake, the compression, the power, and the exhaust in the pistons. You get the air that comes in, it burns the fuel, and then it goes out the exhaust. So it's a well-formed machine, right? Well, that's what these supercell type thunderstorms do. They go through, they intake that moisture, it lifts it up, and then the exhaust basically goes out of the top of the thunderstorm, and this process continues. Sometimes you get thunderstorms that go, there's not a lot of shear, and they just develop in the summertime, and then they just collapse. These storms will probably not do that. They'll cycle through. But during that cycling, at one point, they're going to see the downdraft capabilities because the hail is going to get so large that it can't support the hailstone anymore. So the hail falls, and then the cooler air drops, and then you get a damaging wind gust. That's basically the gist of it all. So that's how that all forms. So the hail gets supported by the updraft. And the critical thing is when you're dealing with large hail, the larger the hail, the stronger the wind that has to support that hail in the air. And at some point, that hailstone is going to fall. And if you've got golf ball size hail, that means you could probably have, it took a tremendous amount of wind going straight up to produce that hailstone, because the hailstone actually goes up in the storm and it gets coated with supercooled water, falls back, and that water freezes, and as it falls back, it gets another coating of water, so it just keeps going through. So just like a tree trunk, you can cut that tree down, you can count the rings in it. There are rings in hailstones, and it's going to be a milky white and a clear appearance, and it tells you how many times that hailstone has been through the updraft. It's kind of hard to cut through some of those hailstones, though. And I was at the hurricane conference, and there was a really cool a video showing hailstones. It was baseball-sized hail in Nebraska, but it was showing it on a 4K 3D all-around camera. So it was showing the hail tumbling. So, you know, you usually think the hail falls straight down, but it's actually coming down sideways, and it's tumbling as it comes down. And that's why hail is so weird, because sometimes you get a smooth hailstone, but sometimes you get real spiky hail. And in some cases, you get it looks like a disc. We've had that. So it's going to be interesting. I don't know enough, honestly, about hailstones, the chemistry of all of it. I just know, you know, certain parameters that make it larger. So sometimes we see things that turn out a little bit different. But again, that's the situation there. Here's your 3-day forecast. Hail threat tomorrow, that's the biggest concern. We haven't talked much about tornadoes. It's really the higher wind shear is in the upper levels of the atmosphere, and it's not down at the surface where you typically would find a need for tornadoes. But cooler Friday, cooler Saturday, a chilly start, maybe a touch of frost in southern middle Tennessee and some of the sheltered valleys in far northeast Alabama. I still don't think it's going to be that big of a deal. And I think after this weekend, I don't see any real big cold snaps. So I think we should probably be able to plant beginning next week. Coming up, we're going to talk more about your 10-day forecast. I'm going to start this break. It lasts for 1 minute. I'll see you after the break. Oh, you know what? Oops, that's my bad. I forgot to push the button. Forgot to push the button. At least you guys were able to read the comments there. Someone says, Steven says, it's way too loud. Yeah, I don't see a tornado threat, but it's because the mid-levels of the atmosphere is pretty much where the rotation's going to be, and we'll continue to watch that. But do I think we'll have another tornado outbreak in the future? Right now, I don't see that happening. And I believe Angela was asking about the soccer game. I don't see that on here anymore. But yeah, it's going to be close. We're going to have to watch out some of these storms firing up, especially as we get past 4, 5, 6 o'clock in the evening. Should be a fairly quick round. The only good news is this is going to be a regular business hours, so to speak, with the storms coming in. But right now, again, we're just watching out for the hail. And anytime we get really large hail, it's probably going to get really loud. If we get a really big hailstorm, what comes to mind, we had a situation several years ago. This is when Dan Satterfield was still working here. So that tells you how long ago it was. And we had a tornado warning out, and all of a sudden the mesocyclone just stopped as it was moving from Decatur into Madison, and it was going down Airport Road, and everybody was like, there's a tornado on the ground on Airport Road. They're like, we have a loud roar in South Huntsville. And I immediately picked together, I was on the phone with Dan Schmidt, actually, who used to work here, and he was talking about how large the hail was. They had like baseball-size hail in South Huntsville, and I put it all together. You had the smell of pine, which was the large hailstones shredding the pine trees, and the loud roar was the hail hitting the top of the rooftops. So if you can imagine baseball-size hail hitting all these rooftops, it gets really, really loud. And you want to be safe out there if we do get these bigger hailstones. Not only is it going to break out windshields in your car, things like that. Again, I mentioned earlier, a lot of people, you know, I drive by, a lot of people's garage doors are open and you just see them packed full of stuff. And there's so many storage in it. You know, that reminds me of the George Carlin skit where he talks about stuff. And that's one of my favorite skits there, because we need more stuff. So again, that's why I'm building a bigger garage, so I can get more stuff. But again, be careful out there tomorrow. We'll keep tracking the storms for you. Hopefully we can get the storm tracker out there and be able to give you some visual reports from that. You can also get hail fog, as you saw in Russellville earlier this year. If you get enough hail, hopefully what we get is just the small dime-size hail and a lot of that instead of the bigger, larger hailstones. But as we get later into April, we tend to see bigger hailstones with the storms. So we're going to have to watch that. But again, thanks. And one of these days, I'll have everything and have a flawless show for you guys. Appreciate it. Coming up during 10 o'clock news, I'll have the latest forecast guides for that. Yeah, it's one of those you're just going to have to wait and see on any cancellations, because this is going to be scattered in nature until we get the main line coming through. And hopefully the main line will speed through rather quickly, so it may be just some delays out there. But again, thanks for tuning in. I'll see you again tomorrow night at 9:30, unless I'm wore out from covering all the hail.